Hello, this is Neil from MasterPaintingNow.com. Alright, so in this tutorial I'm going to go through some critiques that I have on a DeviantArt forum. And so if you're interested in that, you can find it by going, I don't know if this is the link you'd actually go to or not, but this is the link I have up here. Just make sure you go full screen so you can see it. Alright, so I'm going through the different pictures there that I had already commented on and just going into more detail with the video critique of some of these videos or some of these pictures. Just for you to know, I'm not going to be posting these long tutorials that often on YouTube anymore. They're going to be mainly going to the VIP members. It's free to become a VIP member. All you have to do is go to my website, the link's in the description, masterpaintingnow.com, click on exclusive tutorials, or exclusive lessons I think it's called, and bam, there you go. You enter your email and you hit submit and that's it. You're done. You're now part of my newsletter and you'll get a weekly email around every week. I'm trying to do a exclusive tutorial once a week. And these are the longer, more informative tutorials. So if you're into that thing, you like learning, you like the longer, more informative tutorials, and you want to sign up for the free newsletter. Also, you'll get discounts on the courses like when I come out with them, and you'll know about them before anyone else does. Right, so let's go ahead and get started with this then. So what I like to do, just do these critiques, this is a little bit easier, is make a copy of the layer. I'm going to set it to multiply. Then I'm going to go to image, adjustments, and hue and saturation. I'm going to turn the saturation down because this is for shadows. Image adjustments, levels, and I'm going to turn this down a little bit as well. This is for like darker shadows. For if I wanted to lighter, I can just kind of go like that. But let's go to layer, layer mask, and hide all. So the first thing I want to do is in the background here, all this would be a lot darker because this little light here, I was now informed this is actually a Pokemon, didn't know that. Thought it was a lamp of some sort. All this back here in the background is going to be a lot darker. Looks like there's a window there, so actually that would cast some light in here, like so. Otherwise the rest is going to be pretty dark. Also, he's going to have a cast shadow because notice the light is coming directly from him, and because of that, the cast shadow isn't going to go out very far, and I'm thinking we'll just have it in this area here. Anyway, it would probably maybe even go out farther than that. I have to like check the angle, and I don't really know the perspective of this image all that well. Also, right here, this looks like hair shadow. There's nothing that should be causing shadow to be cast there because the light's coming this way. All that should be lit up. And so let's make a new layer here. Right, so like that. I'm not, not doing like anything perfect. I'm trying to keep it each critique under whatever. Try and keep each critique under 4 minutes. Okay. Let's go back here. There should be cast shadow here because you can see the light source would be hitting the hair, and each would be casting a little bit of cast shadow. My brush is a little bit thick, but I'm thinking maybe a little bit of on this side. Dang it. Just revealing the form a little bit. All that's going to be really lit up, so that's pretty right. The chin might have more cast shadow down here. Probably it's not going to be that dark though. But I just don't want to make another layer right now to fix all that. I think a lot of this would have darker shadows in it to reveal the metal, and it would also have brighter brights. All this here would be a little bit more dark in shadow. So would all this here. This is like the paper, and I guess the light is a little bit hitting that side of the paper, but all this side I think will be a little bit darker. All this under here would definitely be darker because it's not receiving any light. It's like totally away from the light. It might have a little bit of a cast shadow because of the angle that the light's hitting it. A little bit of cast shadow down here as well. And I would also add more, you know, this would have a cast shadow going up like that. I'm thinking she might have been more lit by that back window, but still, I would try to add more form. To some of this. I don't know if I'd make it this dark though, to be honest. So I'd probably turn all that, tone all that down. But again, I don't want to make another, I don't feel like making another layer, so laziness. That's what it comes down to. Right, so I spent a little bit more time on this than I wanted to, but also the top of this probably wouldn't be receiving any light either. So all this guy here would be pretty dark. There'd be a little bit of bounce light coming off of him to that side, like that, but this side would all be pretty dark. Anyway, get the idea. Right, so just add a little bit more drama to it too. Okay, so that's that on that one. Move on to the next one. Right, so unless you're purposely trying to get this scribbly look, then sketching, and this I think people confuse this sometimes, sketching does not equal scribbling. So when you sketch, it doesn't mean, that you're messy with it. Sketching means you're fast and you're deliberate with your strokes. So it's boom, so you'd be deliberate with your strokes. And so that'd be like the nose, right? And when you're shading, it's the same thing. You're deliberate with your strokes. Either it's a back and forth shading like this that you would do with the pencil, and that's kind of hard to do in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, you might do more of a cross hatching, or grab a bigger brush and go ahead and fill it in that way, and just be like, okay, boom, something like that. But it's deliberate strokes, so keep that in mind. Another way to sketch too is to never let your pencil leave the paper. So your pencil's touching the paper the entire time, and you're kind of going back and forth really lightly, but you can't really see anything pick up. And then once you kind of feel the line, after you kind of went over a few times and you kind of feel the line, then you start pushing, and you're like, okay, now that's where it's going to be darker, and you kind of go light, maybe kind of slightly build up the form, and then kind of pull where you're confident with the line. Once you kind of see it on the paper, if you go over a few times, then you can add deliberate strokes like that for shading. Deliberate strokes like this. So cross hatching, whatever. If you want to cross hatch, you can go back over it, but do it deliberately, in one direction. Don't go up and down like this. Do it in one direction, stroke only in one direction. So in this case, I'll be stroking the down stroke, and then come across this way if you want to, and maybe come across one more way for a couple of the other darker areas, like I want it a little bit darker right there. So it depends on if you want to do cross hatching or not, but still, even if you're sketching with a pen, just keep it smooth, lightly touch, and then pull your strokes and get your strokes together, rather than, and it'll look much smoother and clearer in the end. All right, let's go on to the next one. So I think this is a pretty cool image, but I think it could be strengthened more with paying attention a bit more to form. So let's go ahead and add the darkest shadows here. Hue and saturation, let's turn this down. Go to layer and hide all. Okay. So because it's a black mask, I want to reveal it with a white color. And just by paying attention to the light source, so if I look at her face, I can see that there's shadows here, and there's shadows here, and under here, which tells me, I'm going to go by her face for the lighting source and be consistent with that. The light is in front of her, so in other words, toward us, the viewer, not in back of her. And the light is coming from above her, and a little bit to her right, this side of her. So the light is going to be hitting all this area here on her arm, and all this part of her arm is going to be darker. This is just doing like a kind of a cartoony type of shading. All this right here is going to have cast shadow from her head. The hat, we'll leave a cast shadow. The hat, I think, will have a darker shadow in this area. Some of this here will be in darker shadow. All this part of arm here, darker shadow. Also, they have outlined the whole thing in white. I think that takes away from the image, but you know, it's their choice, and it doesn't necessarily look bad, so they can keep it. But I personally, in this, I don't know, I would just only go with white on this side, where this light back here, the background light, is like acting like a backlight. And I would just added some backlighting highlights to her. But I know they were just trying to bring out, because this is all dark colors and these are dark colors, and they kind of blend together, so you don't want it to her to kind of blend in that part. You want her to kind of pop out from it. To do that, you just simply kind of add a little bit of lighting to that side of the body, as some sort of backlighting or bounce light or reflective light or something like that. Some of the light source that's off camera, but you know, it's a really dim light source. Or you can just, you know, use lighter colors on that side. So at this, it's all about paying attention to form at this point here. And so how do you learn form? Well, I have a course on that. That's really the easiest way to learn form, is, you know, get a good course on it. And I've gotten great reviews so far for my course on the new course I have on form. So go to my website, it's right there on the home page. You can also click on courses and get to it that way. So you can see the light, this here is going to kind of come underneath. Even though the light would be hitting it, there's still going to be, you know, from the backlighting, maybe a little bit of shadow there, and then most of that will be in shadow over there. A little bit of this, because it's kind of turned away from the light. That's kind of hitting light. This maybe not. I'm going to assume there's kind of a split here at first between her legs. And so all that part of her butt would be hitting. This part here is all more in shadow. A little bit there. A little bit down here is kind of turned away from the light as well, because you want to show this whole form here. So to make it look more round, and you can even make it look more round by fading the colors. But with cartoons, you typically don't do that. You just kind of reveal the form a little bit more simply. Something like this. And you can still reveal the form of the objects. So if you look at the before and after, you can see it reveals a lot more form just by doing that little bit of shadowing. And if you don't want it to be so, you know, prominent, you can kind of turn it down a bit. And then add darker parts, you know, in this area. Maybe make another layer, a duplicate of this, and then, you know, erase most of it you don't want to be seen. And so lastly, what I would do, I'd personally recommend, okay, how come, alright, so, oh, that's weird, it's still showing the thing, okay. I'd go to this layer here, and I would only have the backlight. I would actually get rid of the white lines, so, you know, I don't have the original image. So it's not like I can go in the layers and stuff and do all this, but in the layers I would have went ahead and got rid of all those lines, and so there'd be no white on this side of her body, and only have some white on that side from the backlighting, and all this here would also, you know, there'd be none there as well. And you can see she still pops out if you just add a little bit of that color. You can just add a little bit of that color, oops, a brighter, slightly brighter color into her if you want her to pop out more, or, you know, just add a little bit of brightness of her color, whatever. Another thing you might want to do is just add a little bit of the color overall. So one way to do it, just a quick way to do that, is grab one of the medium colors. There's more complicated ways to do it too, and just kind of brush over the whole thing. And so now she kind of takes on that whole kind of look of the darker, or the bluish tone, the bluish tint. And then image adjustments, curves, just to kind of fix, because I lighten it up just a little bit. I want it to be too dark, something like that. Alright, so on to the next one. Right, so I really like this concept. I think it's really cool, but the lighting makes it all look very flat. So to try to help that a little bit, Let's go and do just the same trick I did before. Right, so to help that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some darkness. I got to make sure I'm on normal. So basically, from her face, I'm going to try to use her face to get the main light source. Again, it's in front of her to the top left. For some reason, that seems to be pretty common. I like to make the light in front of them to the top right. I don't know why, that's just my preference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light this thing. So if the light's coming through here, her head's going to be casting a shadow. All this, whatever this is, her body and stuff, will be casting a shadow. All this is not going to have nearly as much light. Her whole head is going to be casting a shadow over all that stuff anyway. A lot of that will be in shadow. All that will be darker. I want to kind of reveal the individual shapes of these things here. I also want to just kind of pump out see the hand here, as it's hitting, it's casting a shadow here. Because remember, the light is in front of her, above her, and to the left of her. By in front of her, I mean toward us, the viewer, and not going in back of her. There'll be another cast shadow there. And actually, sometimes a better way to get the shadow is to, let's go Image, Adjustments. Make sure I'm on the actual layer, not on the mask. Adjustments and Levels, and just turn this down. And all this side of the face is going to be in shadow. Maybe even darker shadow, like that. All this hand here is going to have shadows all on here, on this side here. Kind of bring that form out. Most of it will be in shadow up there as well. So it's more. It seemed like there's supposed to be more of a localized light source, which was on her face. So actually, that's too much shadow there. That's all wrong right there, so let's go ahead and fix that. Zoom in here, turn this off for a second. All this right here shouldn't be shadow. The nose shadow is actually going behind her face, so there'd be just a little bit, maybe a little bit of shadow under the nose, a little bit on that side, no, a little bit there. Next, what I'd do, I'd make a, I'm just going to pick a brush here. I'll pick a soft lights brush. Make sure I'm on the actual layer right now. I'm not on something else. I'm just going to add a little bit of, bring out some of the highlights here. Maybe even use a yellowish warmer color. I might even add a little bit of yellow warm to her eye here as well. That's too much yellow. Just kind of soften up our eyeball there a little bit. All this is going to kind of be more in shadow. Anyway, something like this, and so then you can see. Oops, I forgot to actually paint on that layer too, but so you can't. Well, actually, I can repaste it. Oops. Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. How's having an update thing? Okay, now you can see the before and after. Right, and so obviously this is really done really quickly, so I'm losing some of the detail, but it brings out more of the dramaticness of it, and it adds more depth. And maybe I went a little bit overboard with putting too much shadow in some places. But I like that look, so I'm a fan of Rembrandt. I was actually more impressed with this after I learned that the person did it with a mouse. So the main thing is just the lighting. The lighting can be improved a lot. So the only light source in this picture that I can see is these butterfly wings. So it's not gonna, the butterfly wings aren't gonna like go through her and add light to the ground. In fact, she's blocking all that light. So what's gonna end up happening, this time what I'm gonna do is go to Image, Adjustment, Levels, and just turn this down. and I'll go to layer, actually image adjustments, and I'll also go to hue and saturation, turn the saturation down just a little bit, then go to image adjustments and layer mask, hide all. Using white, I'll make sure I'm on normal brush, start adding in the shadows. So all this part of her body and all this down here is going to be darker, about like so. Her hair is going to be a lot darker on this side, and a little bit here on that side and inside, a little bit on the bottom. And actually, you know what? I'm also going to go ahead and change this layer to multiply as well, and then I'll just turn it down a little bit. It usually adds a slightly better effect. There we go. I want to increase the shadow here, so I'm just using a soft brush and I'm increasing the depth of the intensity of the shadow by adding more pressure. I would actually fix her hands too because they don't look right. So she's going to have a whole entire drop shadow under there, under her body. All this will be pretty deep in shadow. Right, so something like this. All this will be in deeper shadow. And to fix the hand, I'll go ahead and get rid of this for a second. I would just slightly bring the fingers out a little bit more. Not much, just a little bit. I know they're being foreshortening things, but kind of go like that. Need a smaller brush. Adding more shadow here. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is make another layer, and I would just add this bright color to some of this as just to kind of bring out some of the details and some of the stuff, especially fabric here. Whenever there's like little creases and stuff, it's going to kind of pick up. And I might even still desaturate her a little bit more. So I'm going to go to her layer, the layer that she's on, the original layer, go to saturation, pick a kind of a medium gray color, soft brush, big soft brush, and just lightly tune down some of the saturation down here. Where the light's hitting, it's going to be more saturated, but down here where the shadow is, it's going to be less saturated. Right, so now let's go ahead and look at the before and after. As you can see, it looks a lot more realistic, like a photograph in it, and it's all just about lighting. So lighting, color, form, and again, check out my new course. It's awesome. At least that's what people tell me, and it will teach you form. It's form, dynamic lighting, and perspective. It's all the fundamentals you need to start drawing good from your mind, and even from reference. It'll help you draw better from reference as well. So check it out. It's pretty awesome. It's 13 hours long. It's definitely worth a look at. Just go to my homepage. That's the trailer for right now. Although it might change by the time you watch this video, I don't know. But it's on my website. It is called, I think on the website it's called something like finally, the headline is finally draw realistically from your imagination. You'll see a lot of the critiques I do is about form and lighting, because that's what people mess up a lot, is form and lighting. Alright, so this I'm going to do a little different. I'll just go ahead and pick a multiply brush, pick a dark color, big brush, and I'm going to kind of go like this, because see, the lighting is, oops, I don't want to mess with the laser beam. The lighting here is wrong. So there's a big backlight, and that's where the majority of the light's coming from. This laser beam, it's not going to produce that much light, to be honest. I don't want to mess up the laser beam note, so make sure I don't have to use a smaller brush right here. But yeah, so basically the laser beam isn't going to produce that much light. It'll produce a little bit of light, and most of it's going to be here and a little bit on the legs, but that's about it. What's definitely going to happen is you're going to have this whole, most of this guy here, most of the details are going to be gone, and he's not going to be that dark, so I need to go back to normal brush here. Just pick a darker color and paint in here. So a lot of these details will be lost though, and he's going to be like backlit, like almost like a silhouette. Not quite a silhouette, but pretty close. So I have to go back to multiply, I guess. Just have to not touch as hard. So a lot of this is going to be like a silhouette. There'll be some backlighting. More like rim lighting. Okay, and so right here, there's going to be a little bit of light, and it's going to kind of show some of the form of the ship, and then you'll have kind of a line here. Trying to do it softly, like that. Anyway, it's not going to be that dark, but it's going to just kind of pick up some, it's going to kind of pick up a little bit of detail there. Anywhere there's like ridges, this beam of light that's anywhere that's close to that, the beam of light is going to actually pick up some of the details. So there's details in there, it'll pick those up and so forth. There's going to be rim lighting on the edge of this guy from the backlight from the sky. So there'll be a little bit of rim lighting here and there. Get the idea. So that's just done really quickly. This back shadow here is incorrect. It won't be there at all. And I recommend when you're painting too to not paint with textures like that, because it's just going to take away from your painting. Just paint it normally with regular brushes, and then if you find that you need a little bit of texture, a little texture goes a long way. Little details go a long way. The shadow would be more like that. Of course, it wouldn't be as, oops. Oh, I'm still multiply. Wouldn't be as strong out here, but anyway, get the idea. And so a good way to check is zooming all out, and then you can see. So that's how it's going to be. This laser light is probably not going to have this thing cast any shadow. If it does, if it is that strong of a light source that it can actually cause this thing to cast shadow, it's going to be very, very faint, and it's going to come off like that. Remember, you can have more than one shadow, and it'll come out like that, but it'll be very, very faint and fade out. So there you go. There's that one. So basically when it comes to faces, whether you're drawing anime or not, you still want to pay attention to the basic shapes that make up the face. So you start with the big circle. Okay, so the basic shape of the face is fine. Right, so then you have this kind of halfway point, and then you have another halfway point, and that's about where the eyes are going to be. The nose is going to fall around this area here. I like to sometimes draw my noses like that, like actually draw like a form, and know that that's where my, the shape of my nose is going to fit into. And don't give this shape to your nose here. If you want to do anything, just do little dots, or you can do something. If you want the nose like it's looking more down like this, or something more comic-y. You can kind of shape out the nostrils a little bit, and then come in here with the shape. A little bit more realistic, but this looks too much like a pig, and I wouldn't do it. It's not attractive. So I don't recommend that particular shape. The eyes, so the eyes would be a little bit higher, and go ahead and make them big. And you don't want them too close together either, but you don't want them too far apart. When you're doing manga eyes, your eyes are, have the big lashes and everything. They're going to be more like this. Right, I'm not going to get too much in. The eyebrows are going to be higher up here, like that. The ears, they sit on the side of the head, and they come like this. So remember, they're being like foreshortened because they're turned back away from us. We're not seeing the whole side. They don't stick out like the sides like that. I'd make the neck a little bit thinner because it's a girl. And then for hair, you know, imagine the center part where the cowlick is, and you have hair coming off the head. You know, the hair doesn't rest directly on the head. It has some little bit of bounce to it. And you can kind of have bangs here. So give the hair a little bit of bounce, and then if you want your ponytails back here, you can have ponytails. Right, so something like that, and then the mouth, simple mouth, and I would go with more of a shape like that. Or you can have it, more straight if you want it more straight. Put like a little tongue or something. Anyway, unfortunately, I drew on top of the image, so you can't really. You hopefully can kind of see what that looks like and how it would look better. But yeah, just make sure you still pay attention to proportions and learn the proportions of your style, and that's how your faces will look better. Also, choosing the right shapes for your individual parts will look better too. Right. So it's hard to offer a critique sometimes without people, getting a little bit offended, because they take the art very personally, and I hope I don't ever offend anyone. I'm just trying to be helpful, and I'm just offering my opinions, and they could be wrong. Right. So with this image here, it's very flat. There's really no depth to it whatsoever. So how do you change that? How do you add some depth to it? Well, I'll just show with adding a little bit of depth to the people. Now, even if the person's like, well, I believe the person said, well, I kind of wanted it to look more like the shadows weren't very prominent. Well, the thing is, there's really no shadows, so you want to have a little bit of shadows. They don't have to be like super deep shadows or anything, but you want to add some shadows so that there's some depth to the people. If there's not depth anywhere else, at least have depth to the people. Right, so I would add depth all in here. First of all, where's the light coming from? It's kind of hard to tell. I'm thinking it's, because see how bright her hair is here compared to everyone else, compared to everywhere else. I'm thinking the light is above them, it's to the right of them, and it's toward us. So in front of them this way, not behind them toward the background or the horizon. And because of that, her face here, all this is going to be in shadow down here. The wings will be having a cast shadow. All his butt and everything will be having a cast shadow on all this part here. There's going to be, see here, it's in front of them, so rather the shadow of the foot would be back there. All this part of the wing here would be in shadow. This part, even though the light is kind of coming here, this part would have a little bit of shadow there. His arms have a little bit of shadow. All this back part here to have a little bit of shadow. All this back part of the wing. In fact, most of this wing would be in shadow. Most of that leg's in shadow too. Just a little bit of it's not. Right, and then I can go ahead and I can go, okay, well, I want to add a little bit of color to my shadow, so to do that, I can go to this layer and go to Image, Adjustments, and we'll go to Color Balance, and we'll add just a little bit of red. Or the whole image is kind of blue, so we'll be consistent, add a little bit of blue. Right, so as you can see, just that little bit of shadow makes a big difference and starts making all of them pop out. Then you can have, okay, you need their shadows, coming out here. See how the light's kind of hitting like that. So the light's really high above them, so actually their shadows are probably going to be they're covering, most of the shadows being covered by them, but they'll probably be that shadow right there. A part of his wing, and then his head is over there. Since the light's almost directly above them, and back here, this thing here is going to have some form to it as well. I don't know. Oh, there's a waterfall coming out. Okay, I didn't know what that was at first. I would kind of add a little more detail to that to make it clear it's a waterfall. I would just kind of, no, not like that. I would kind of add something over here, like there's just something casting a shadow, maybe a tree or something. Just looks cooler. Because it all looks kind of empty out here. Like where is everything? Where are they at? There's like nothing out here. So I would add some stuff, bushes and trees, stuff like that. But anyway, so just adding that little bit of shadow it's already going to boost out the image and make it have more form and make it more appealing to look at. Alright, move on to the next one. So I forgot to mention something about this image, and I know I already deleted it, so I'm not going to do all the shadows and stuff again. But what I just want to show is all of her colors aren't quite matching the scene itself. So you might want to just kind of come in here and take some of this blue kind of colors and just kind of, you know, soften up all, just make the whole thing kind of more blue, especially if she's supposed to be underwater. Then the whole thing should be a lot more blue. In fact, what I would probably do is just make a new layer, fill it in with the blue color, and set that whole thing to like soft light or something, and maybe turn it down a bit. And so that's to make it look more like she's underwater. It's going to dilute the colors more, and I don't know, maybe I'd even dilute the colors even more. But of her, though, I'll just do it on her on a separate layer. And anyway, then add all the shadows, and that should make a pretty big difference.